Sunday night, and you're live from the point. The weekend's fading, bikes are in the shed. Got stories of the open road running through my head. From six gaps curves to a tail of the dragon run. The riding is over, but the talking's just begun. It's fellowship, fatherhood, and freedom we share. Got your questions and comments right here on the air. So pull up a chair and let's get it right. Live from the point on a Sunday night. Thanks for stopping by to visit with me. I know there's plenty more out there for us to see. If you like what you're seeing, smash subscribe for me. It's fellowship, fatherhood, and freedom we share. Got your questions and comments right here on the air. So pull up a chair and let's get it right. Live from the point on a Sunday night. It's fellowship, fatherhood, and freedom we share. Got your questions and comments right here on the air. So pull up a chair and let's get it right. Live from the point on a Sunday night.
Hey, Dakota here. It's Sunday night, and you're watching Live from the Point on Burroughs Point YouTube. We have a great show for you tonight. Here's Calvin.
What's going on, everyone? Calvin from Burroughs Point, and welcome you to another episode of Live from the Point. Tonight is July 20th, 2025, and we'll be recapping some of the videos that we posted this week, notably the BMW news release, as well as a video that I did talking about some of the things that are going on in Texas right now. Also, notably, is announcing a new feature on the Burroughs Point YouTube channel. We've got some interesting new content for you, so we'll be going over all of that here shortly. Again, big thank you to all of the just making sure we got our audio working. Big shout out to all of you subscribers out there. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for continuing to watch the channel. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. We got a bunch of great content coming out every week, so check us out. Good news is that we are continuing our content posting schedule. That seems to be something that we're able to sustain. So yeah, just doing good stuff, and we just enjoying making great content for y'all. So big news from BMW. They released their 2025 news release. I'm sorry, 2026 news release concerning all of their new and upcoming models for 2026. A bunch of models that are returning and some new models as well. Notably so, their part of this news release is it's not a complete news release of all the models. They only talked about certain ones that they were releasing news on. So there's still a number of models yet that we don't know what the news is on. Notably absent from that news release was the R18, but you know, it's I assume that they're going to send out another push here in the next several weeks, because we're still very early in the year for model year announcements. Usually that happens a little bit further in the fall, but you know, I can understand brands wanting to kind of get ahead of the curve a little bit and wanting to be, you know, the first to break their news. So, and I should have had this prepared. I'm just trying to get it pulled up for us to talk about. You would think that I would have it pulled up and ready to go, but no such animal tonight. So anyhow, oh yeah, here it is. So a few of these are going to be, yeah, I was just looking here. Last year they announced the majority of the models back on in November was the full presser. So I would imagine that this year they're giving us a little bit of I guess a sneak peek as to what's to come, but that the majority of the entire release will come much later in the year. Like I said, most brands, they'll drop them towards the end of the year to kind of help with year-end sales figures or year-end numbers. So that's good. And a few of these are, like I said, some of these are going to be naked, some of these are going to be adventures. I don't think anything in here, we're not talking about any of the cruisers anywhere in here. A bunch of new colors, a bunch of returning models. R12 GS is going to be brand new for 2026. There's going to be some expanded, I guess notably they're expanding the R12 line. So if you're interested in those boxers, because I guess the R18 come out with that 1800cc engine of the Boxer Twin, the R12s are going to be a smaller version of that. They're supposed to be the mid-size bikes. Notably so, though, unlike how they did with the 1200 CLC and the 1200C back in the day, they are not doing a full dresser in the 1200 series. They're going to keep the full dresser on the 1800, which is probably for the best, considering that the experiment with the 1200 CLC, it was a short-lived bike, short-lived model, and one of the chief complaints on that motorcycle was going to be underpowered. There was, you know, people were complaining about it being underpowered. Now, I owned a bike for a little while, and I'm a bigger guy. I didn't think it was that underpowered, but, you know, I guess when you're looking at some of the larger performance bikes that are out there and that are available today, it probably would be underpowered comparative to that. But considering that this was an early 2000s model, you know, I'm not sure what that is. But expanding the R12 offerings for 2026 with the R12 GS, R12 let's see, yeah, we got the GS that's completely new. So they're gonna have that available with an Enduro package and a premium package on that. And then some of the sport bike lines, we're getting more information about the sporties. But as far as the R12, we got new colors coming in for the R12 for 2026. But the majority of the BMW line, like I said, it's going to be returning for 2026. No big news as far as models being discontinued or anything in the cruiser line that's going to be new for 2026. So I know that BMW is kind of one of those niche kind of things. If you like BMW, then, you know, that's You either love them or hate them, I think is really what it boils down to. And I actually don't mind my my BMW that much. One of the only reasons why I'm selling it is in order to make room for another one in my garage. So ultimately, I'd like to have that big touring machine and another little bike to mess around with. I think what I was trying to do with the 1200 CLC is to have a smaller touring machine to kind of mess around with, but really at the end of the day, I just need my big touring machine, and I need another bike that I can take down the street and it not be so freaking heavy. So that's really the thing there, and it can be a BMW or not. I think what's interesting for me specifically when it comes to the BMWs is that I am still looking at bikes to replace my Vulcan Voyager with. And so with that being said, one of the bikes that's on the potential table for that is the R18. And I have yet to go test ride it. That is something that is on the to-do list. It's just, finding the availability, where the demo truck is, all that other stuff. That's a chore. But being able to ride the R18 is that's definitely something I want to do before I commit fully to either discounting it or getting it. But there's something about that Boxer Twin that's uniquely BMW, and that sets it apart from the American V twins. And so it is something to consider for sure when you're looking at potentially what kind of bike to end up getting and having to live with on a daily basis. It's a different kind of rumble. It's a different kind of operation. But there's no doubt about the fact that BMW is a premium motorcycle, and their fit and finish is superb, and they put out a dang good motorcycle. And I guess the only qualm that I have about it is not necessarily that anything is wrong with the R18. It's just the type of engine that's in it and the design philosophy that's behind it. Because that big old 1800 cc Boxer Twin, I mean, the fact that it's got a huge part of the cylinder sticking out of the side of the bike is a little bit unnerving, I would say, but to each his or her own. Now, one of the other stories that we debuted this week, or I guess one of the videos that we did this week, wasn't necessarily about motorcycle riding as much as it was about fatherhood. Now, I've always said from the get, if you followed my channel and you've been with me for a while, you've been watching my content, you know that fatherhood is a big part of my channel. And it doesn't necessarily readily mix with motorcycles, although a lot of guys who ride motorcycles are dads. A lot of gals who ride motorcycles and watch this channel have, guys in their life that are raising their children. So it's important, I think, to the demographic of this channel that we talk about it, because it's not fatherhood can be looked upon by a lot of folks, and in popular media and in other sources of media, there's a lot of pressure on guys to act a certain way, behave a certain way, or guys' role in the family is sometimes almost lessened or mitigated or just ridiculed almost in popular media. So it's always been my thought that guys who are dads should be celebrated, especially dads who are in the picture and doing the thing and actively raising kids. They should be celebrated. So that's why we talk about this topic on our channel, is because as a dad myself, I'm very, very interested in celebrating dads and talking about things that affect men in the fatherhood context. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why we talk about that on this channel. And I got to tell you, the news cycle on the Texas flooding situation has been heart-wrenching. And it just seems to be ever since the flood on Independence Day, we are 16 days removed from that. But the information that has come out of Texas, out there in the hill country since Independence Day, has been horrific, heart-wrenching. Stories of heroism, stories of loss, stories of unimaginable sacrifice and unimaginable pain. And I could not fathom being in that situation, of being in the situation that some of these parents, some of these dads have found themselves in. And it's hard for me to talk about this topic. It absolutely is. I guess one of the things that you fear as a parent is losing your kids, and that is, just the heart-wrenching stories that are coming out of Central Texas is just, it can get to you. It absolutely can, and it can trigger some of your basal fears as a father, as a parent. Just hearing some of these stories. I know I talked about it in the video that I did. There's a story, and it came out in the Texas Monthly. It's a magazine there. And what I didn't know at the time, after I did a little bit more poking around into the story, is that the person who was writing this used to be with a New York publication or something of that nature, but he had come down to Texas, and the family was doing the thing on the river, and he was one of the family members that was in that river house when it got swept away by the floods, and that the toddler got swept into the waters. But this is the kind of stuff that has happened out there. One of these harrowing stories. The parent didn't even have a choice as to which child to save. It was grab whatever child you can, and trying to remember these folks. So just like with all of the North Carolina flooding, because we tend to move from disaster to disaster, and tend to forget folks that are still suffering. After the news cycle moves on, we need to remember that there are still people in North Carolina who have suffered very similar situations as the folks down there in Texas. Not saying that their tragedy is any worse or better than the folks over there in Texas or the folks in North Carolina or in the Carolinas, but that whole situation is similar. So we have to remember those folks in Carolina that lost, in the Carolinas that lost families, loved ones, lost their homes. They're still recovering over there. The folks in Texas are going to be recovering for a very, very long time. And not only with their physical property and items and belongings and all that, but these folks are going to need help healing, not just replacing property, but these folks are going to need their community. They're going to need healing. They're going to need help. So I'm going to continue to remember these folks in my prayers, and again with the North Carolina folks and the folks up there in Carolina. We need to remember them. We need to love on them, to pray for them, and do what we can for them. The other aspect of this, though, and this has been talked about extensively, both on this channel and in the writing community in general. Up there in the Appalachian Mountains, these areas that were affected by the hurricane way back when are really prime riding spots, or at least around prime riding spots. You throw a rock in the Smokies and you can hit 10 good riding roads. Of course, you've got the famous ones. You've got Tail of the Dragon and Cherry-Hill Skyway and all that other stuff. I get all that. You got the legendary ones. Those are what they are. But what I'm saying is that these folks, these communities that have been affected by the natural disasters, after the cleanup is done and after everything is open again, one of the ways that we can continue to show love for these communities is go over there and patronize them. So if you've been putting off taking that ride up to the Appalachian Mountains and riding the Smokies, maybe this year you do it, or maybe next year you do it. Do it this year when it cools off a little bit, or do it next year before it gets too terribly hot, or after the snow goes away. Those are the ways that we can show support. Same as the Texas Hill Country. I had plans to go out to the Texas Hill Country here in the next week or two and do some riding out there and run the Twisted Sisters and all that other stuff. That's still something that's on my plate. I am monitoring the situation very carefully. The last thing I want to do is get in the way of anything down there. But from my understanding, as I sit here today, a few states over, I don't believe that my intended route is going to interfere with any of the storm recovery, anything like that out there. Of course, I'll be paying attention to the weather and all that stuff as we get closer. But, what we can do is continue to love on these communities, continue to patronize these communities, and do our part here in the motorcycle community. Like I said, you've got some pretty awesome riding out there in Central Texas. The Hill Country is beautiful. It's one of those places to definitely hit, and it's on my bucket list of rides to take care of across the country. So I will be going out there still. I have plans to go out there still, and I'm going to try to stay away from the active recovery effort as much as possible. But part of me too, it's not just going out there and riding the Hill Country and patronizing and doing my part and all that, but part of me too, and I don't know whether this is because the story has affected me so or what, but I almost feel like I want to go and pay respects because of some of these horrific stories, because staying on top of the news cycle, which I definitely do for this YouTube channel, and motorcycling news touch so many things, but I try to stay on top of the news cycle because of you never know what'll pop up. But you ingest a lot of these stories, and you can get some secondhand trauma just from reading some of these stories. So I would like to go out there and pay respects and pray and everything else like that out there. I think that's important. I think I need it for my own psyche as well as I guess something that I thought of. So anyhow, the main moral of the story is continue to patronize these folks, because we as a community, we as motorcycle riders in a motorcycle riding community, believe it or not, we swing a good little bit of clout. How many folks do you know that ride motorcycles? I mean, riding motorcycles is ubiquitous, and even though the riding community is somewhat fragmented, because you've got adventure bike dudes, adventure bike bros, you got Harley bros, you got all this other stuff, you got sport bike dudes, all this other stuff. But I have found that the biker community in general can rally around a cause, and I can think of no other cause that's in the immediate sphere right now that's any more worthy than helping some of these folks out. So, and I know there's a lot of biker clubs and groups and other such associations. There's folks who are getting together and trying to help these folks. So more power to y'all on that. But I don't want to belabor this point too much, because it's the truth of the matter is I'm several states away, and I know people from around the world have feelings on it and want to share their condolences and stuff like that. But there's it's just a situation, I guess. But anyhow, so we talked about what BMW's got on deck. We also talked about the video that we did for the dads out in Texas. The other big thing that I want to announce tonight on Burroughs Point YouTube is that we have, when I say we, I I have been piddling around with certain AI features. And, I know I did a video a little while back about AI, use of AI, and doing faceless channels and all that mess. And that, I don't do that here. I don't do news channels that are faceless and put out fake information. Like, that's the last thing that I want to do here on this channel. But I have been experimenting with AI tools, and I think that as long as you're doing original content that has heavy human input into it, even though you may use AI as a creation tool, I think that it has some value. So I've been messing around with a music generation AI, and as such have created a few tracks. So like the Burroughs Point main theme is one of these tracks, and I did that. That's the Our View song that's currently on my page. So if you go over there and check it out, it's there. But Our View was written by me, but generated by AI. And so I did a remix of Our View that was less rock and more acoustic-ish, not true acoustic, but less like hard driving rock and something a little bit more chill. And since then, you've sat down and put my hand towards writing a couple other songs. And so I've released these on my YouTube channel. So you've got Our View, which is the main Burroughs Point theme. You've got Our View Remix, which is the remix version of that. There is The Heart of America, or Heart of America rather, that is live right now on my YouTube. We've got oh gosh, I can't remember the name of it. So I just released it today, and you would think that I would know. Y'all, I'm going to have to go check my dang channel out because I don't remember. Anyhow, there was another video that I did that was about motorcycle riding in Washington State. And so that one is live as well. And then okay, West Coast Dreamin'. Golly, I'm so bad at this. So anyhow, West Coast Dreaming is also live there on YouTube. And so I guess the point, well, let me take a step back and say that. So they're live, and I've organized them in a playlist, and I will continue to, if you want to subscribe to my channel and like follow that playlist, I will continue to post tracks in that playlist as I create them. But it's not my main workflow to create music on this channel. This is not a music channel. This is a motorcycle channel. But I've always tried to create, my entire idea behind this was to create a community of motorcycle riders who are like-minded and thought the same way and wanted to watch this content. So that's the entire intent behind this, is community building. That's really why I do something like this. And me personally, I like a genre of music which is somewhere between country and rock. I grew up on Southern rock, like the Allman Brothers and Leonard Skinner and all that other stuff, and also Metallica, grunge, other stuff like that. Lived in Seattle, listened to a lot of rock music in Seattle for a while. So my musical interests and tastes, are kind of weird. But what I can't stand is like what I call tractor rap, pop country, any of that stuff. I cannot do that stuff. Nothing against it. It's just, I can't, that's just not my jam. So, and what's also interesting is it's there's a lot of music that's being put out from Nashville and other places like that that's almost disingenuous. Like these folks, they go out there and they do their thing, but like they wear cowboy boots, but the only mud that they get on their boots is, or the only dirt they get on their boots is when they step off the curb in Nashville. So it's like, you know, I kind of take issue with some of the musical industry in that regard. And I don't feel that like my specific musical taste is well represented out there. So what I am trying to do, my intent to do behind this is to, for anyone who is like-minded and likes the same type of music that I like, to create a playlist of songs that are written by a human and that are, I guess, it may be AI generated, and I'll fully concede that it's AI generated, but I don't have the musical talent required to bring that to life, but you can through an AI. But I can write the songs, and I think I'm fairly good at it, but you know. But my intent is to write songs that fill that gap, that are about motorcycle riding. So you can pop that playlist on your phone, in your helmet, on your cardo, blast it, however, that you can list. That's something for you to listen to while going down the road. That's like, you know, relevant songs to your pastime, your passion. And, you know, my passion too. I like riding motorcycles. So, but like I said, this is not a musical channel. So what I've kind of been doing and how I created these tracks, because they actually lived in my inbox for a little while, is I would like to create these tracks kind of as I can. So I'm not going to sit down and have a sesh where I'm just writing and grinding songs out. I never want to be in that position, because, and that kind of goes for this channel as well, if I ever am in a position where I'm not having fun, I'll quit. Because I like doing this. I enjoy making videos for y'all. I enjoy putting out content. I enjoy making music. Using the AI tools. So yeah, I just kind of, as the inspiration strikes me, I may sit down and write something and put it together and then put it here on the Burroughs Point YouTube. But the idea, like I said, if you want to subscribe to my channel and then go over there to that playlist and just follow the playlist, or honestly, I don't know what the mechanics of YouTube are off the top of my head that allows you to do anything with a playlist. But anyhow, just follow that playlist and keep it queued up. You know, maybe we'll have a nice little library of music one day built up over there. That's kind of my intent. So we'll see. Anyhow, so we got 4 tracks live right now. There's like I said, the main channel theme, a remix of the theme, and then 2 additional tracks. I've got some other information or some other inspiration bouncing around in my head right now. And like I said, all of the music on that should be somewhere between, you know, I don't want to get into like Johnny Cash country or anything like that, and that may hurt some of y'all's hearts. But, you know, everyone has a musical preference, and I get that. But everything that I put together on that playlist should be somewhere between a country-ish to a rock-ish feel. And so that is my goal and intent. And, you know, if the lyrics too, like I try to write them, or I have been writing them, that are personal to me. Like these are mostly lived experiences that I write about. So I'm trying to be genuine with it. I'm trying to make it entertaining. Again, the Burroughs Point YouTube, the whole reason that I am doing this is to be entertaining, to produce entertaining content, because it's fun for me. I like doing this kind of stuff. So so that's what I'll be up to, is doing that and trying to put some interesting information out there for you, and some entertaining music and other stuff like that. So keep an eye on that. Like I said, I don't anticipate dropping tracks on that playlist with any kind of regular schedule. It literally is going to be whenever the fancy strikes me and when I have time to sit down and do it. Now, know that time is in a relatively short supply around here, but you know, the main bread and butter of this channel has been and always will be motorcycle content, news, creative stuff, That's going to be what we're doing around here. So keep an eye on that, and just like I said, as far as the news in the motorcycle community, this is the place to go. Interesting information, and I haven't done a video about this yet, and I probably will, but Suzuki actually has reduced, I cannot talk, I'll have to get it together. Anyhow, Suzuki has released new information about 2 new naked bikes that they have come out with. It's for 2026. And, you know, what's interesting about Suzuki is that a lot of their models have gone stagnant for quite some time. And I don't know, like, I know the M109, it's been hanging around for a while. A few other, the C series, I think it's what it's called. They're all their cruisers, the Boulevard cruisers, the Boulevard line. They have, I can't spell. They have hung around for a while, and they have stagnated as well. But, you know, and that's really, to me, it is a sad thing, because Suzuki has a great potential. I mean, they've got a couple great models, right? M109 and then the Boulevard series. All of those bikes, they've got great potential to develop these and to make them pretty awesome bikes. I've always said, and I did another video on this, is that the M109 is actually a sleeper touring bike. They've developed it originally as kind of a hot rod bike, was supposed to be massively large as far as an engine goes and all that other good stuff. What they failed to do is they failed to develop the M109 into a big touring bike. And I think the potential is there for it. All they need to do is slap some fairings on there and slap a fairing on there, some hard bags and all that other good stuff, and they could make a pretty awesome touring bike. But for whatever reason, they haven't chosen to do so. And it's kind of in line with the rest of the Japanese motorcycle companies, right? Because it's like a pattern of them doing this. They'll invest a ton of money on the front end and then ride that model out until, until the tooling wears out, or until they get so upside down in it that it doesn't make sense for them to continue. And that's really a sad, sad affair. So going back to the models, I got it pulled up here. It's the 2026 GSX 8T, which is going to be a naked bike with Suzuki's 776cc parallel twin. It's going to have some cool electronics on there. MSRP is $10,649. It's going to come out with candy burnt gold or metallic matte black. And then so yeah, that's a good little version of the naked bike. Then you've got the GSX 8TT, which has the same 776 parallel twin. So this is going to have a distinct headlight cowl and under cowling, which is it's got a bit of a fairing, basically a little quarter fairing or so. And then of course they're bringing back the GSX 8R. The TT GSX 8TT comes in at $11,149. So they're hovering around that 10 grand mark. But yeah, exciting news for Suzuki coming out with a new model. Like I said, when what they've done here in the recent past is basically let everything languish, and haven't really contributed anything in either the standard or the standard of the cruising segment. Now they have had some, they have had a sport touring bike, which is nice and all that, but as far as the cruising and standard segments, they really haven't done a whole lot. So good for them for releasing a new model. Hopefully they'll look at some of these other things, try to improve their cruiser line, but it's kind of doubtful at this point in time, right? Because in order to really do that, they, and this kind of gets into a video that I've done before, right? If in order for the Japanese manufacturers to really invest in their touring and cruiser lineup, they really need to take a run at Indian and Indian and Harley-Davidson. Like, that's really what they need to do. And what's interesting about this is Indian has shown that there's market share out there, right? They have they really have gone in there, and they have gone in and really made a name for themselves in the community, and have started building a brand and reviving the Indian brand, and using technology and advanced engineering and as a way to lure people away from Harley-Davidson, to take a bite out of Harley-Davidson's business. So Indian is showing that it can be done if you innovate and create and all this other stuff, which is one of the failings of the Japanese motorcycle companies. You know, they came in, innovated, and stagnated, and that's just not how you compete with Harley-Davidson. But you know, it's got to take willpower for them to do that. And I don't think, because of all that, I think that it's going to be quite a while before we see any Japanese motorcycle companies really make any headway in the touring and the cruising space, simply because of those factors. Now, you do have Kawasaki, who's still in this space, that is still making a large displacement touring bike, is the only Japanese manufacturer that still makes a large displacement touring bike. But, you know, maybe there's some merit in that. Maybe they can revamp that model and update it and keep it going. I really hope they would, but, you know, we'll just have to wait and see about that. What's interesting, too, is BMW with the R18, you know, going back to BMW, as we talked about in the beginning of the conversation. The R18 is an import, and it's a metric motorcycle. It's not a Japanese metric, but it is all the same. And so what I think is interesting about them specifically is that they have decided that they're going to try to take a bite out of Harley-Davidson's business as well, after Harley-Davidson admittedly tried to take a bite out of theirs by releasing the Pan American. But, you know, that is one thing that, you know, they're selling R18s, especially the Transcontinental, right? The full dress bagger. They're taking a bite at it too. So there's obviously some room in the market there, but it's just willpower. It's a lack of willpower to get in there and compete. Will they ever will they ever come around? Who knows? You know, I said that Kawasaki is the only one making a full dress bagger large displacement touring motorcycle, and that's not exactly true. I know that the gold winning exists, and it's a large displacement bike and all that, but I'm speaking specifically about V-twin engines, like American style V-twin engines. So yeah, the gold wing, fully admit that it exists, but that's not the segment that I'm talking about. And I put the gold wing in a segment all to itself, right? Because if you were less concerned about engine type and more concerned about performance, right, there is a specific segment for that. I think that the gold wing exists in a place where the BMW K1600 exists as well, and that those two bikes are very close variations to one another. And especially if you've got new players coming into the game, like the Chinese motorcycle company Sohu or whoever it is, you know, there could be a whole nother segment of touring bike other than just the V-twins. So I think that you really can't compare some of the V-twin motorcycles to the Honda Goldwing, because they just don't exist in the same space. So anyhow, so yeah, really that's what's going on in Burroughs Point, the Burroughs Point community. I do want to say that next week I will not be doing a live from the point, or if I do a live from the point, it will be severely reduced. The reason for that is I will be traveling. Again, I had plans to go out to Texas and to ride out there in some of that area. So y'all, like I said, we're gonna miss an episode of Live from the Point for next week, but we'll make it all up. We'll talk about all that stuff in a week from, I guess, next Sunday, whatever. Anyhow, we'll make all that up in a future episode. But yes, there will not be an episode of Live from the Point on July 27th. So apologies for that. But like I said, it's kind of hard with traveling and everything like that to do it all. So y'all excuse me on that. And hopefully, like I said, everything goes well and whatnot. I should be available and live from the point on August 3rd. So that'll be the next date that we'll have a Live from the Point. So of course, I always love visiting with y'all in the this once a week meeting that we've had. I've actually come to like it. We're on episode 7 now. So, you know, we've done this a few times, and I really am enjoying doing these live streams. So love chatting with y'all, love visiting with y'all. Just because there won't be a Live from the Point next week doesn't mean that we can't chat in the comments. So of course I'll be posting videos. Y'all comment on these videos. I know we got some good content coming up. We'll be dropping 2 videos this upcoming week. And so y'all stand by for that. I'll just check my release schedule here real quick. Let's see. Of course, it doesn't want to cooperate the second I go to look. Okay. Yep. Yeah, and just looking at this, we've got a couple of great videos that will be coming out this upcoming week, and one of which is going to be a movie type deal, documentary / movie type deal. So y'all definitely stay tuned for that. I am very happy with that one, very proud of it, and I hope y'all. It's a great opportunity to sit back and put something up on the big screen. I know that several of y'all watch YouTube, specifically Burroughs Point YouTube. Y'all watch it on the big screen TV. So this one of these videos that's going to come out this week is going to be a feature length movie, feature length documentary. So y'all stay tuned for that. Very happy to present that to y'all. It should be dropping here in the next few days, or like I said, this week. So anyhow, we'll check the chat real quick, see if there's anything going on in the chat. No purrs. Okay. So anyhow, so yeah, that's what's going on in Burroughs Point. Again, love visiting with y'all. Love hanging out here once a week. We won't be here next week, but looking forward to the 3rd. I'll to have some great stories and information. Definitely be taking lots of video as I travel. So y'all stay tuned. And if I can show up next Sunday, if I can go live, even if I'm live from my phone or something like that, we might be able to make it work. I'll look into it, but I'm not holding my breath on it. So anyhow, we're coming up on 50 minutes. I run through all my content, so I got nothing else to talk to y'all about. I'm going to check the chats one more time. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Well, I will, we got nothing in the chat, so I'll take this opportunity to sign off. But thank you guys again for watching. Again, you guys make this channel go. It's the feedback, it's the comments, it's all that stuff that tells me that y'all are watching. Thank you for your love and support. The subscriptions, the likes, the subscriptions, all that other stuff. I see that from week to week, and it's encouraging. It is very, very encouraging. I appreciate y'all, and I look forward to continue to make content for y'all. And if I don't see you live between now and 2 weeks from now, I'll see you guys when I get back, and yeah, we'll chat with y'all then. So Anyhow, thanks for watching Live from the Point Sunday night. We'll see y'all on the next one.